Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February Slow Flowers member meetup. Just like I said, so happy that we're here. I'm Deborah Prinzing. We did postpone by a week to give everyone a little recovery time to get through Valentine's Day. And today we're going to have a great session. So first of all, I want to let you know we have some giveaways. Our friend Pam Youngsman from Poppy Starts is back, our hellebore expert. Hi, Pam. And she's donating to collections of hellebores. Is that right? Oh, go ahead, Pam. Take yourself off mic and say hello. Yep.
Good morning. Yes. Yes. So the giveaway is actually two different varieties from the Ice and Roses series. And these are great for cut flowers. They have long vase life. And you can see they have outward facing flowers, which is really fun. And I think you'll really love them, whoever the lucky winners are.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Nisha's going to take notes and take names of everyone in the participant list. If you have some weird description of who you are, go ahead and change it so she can identify who you are. And Pam, thank you so much. Last year, the hellebore presentation that Pam did with Riz Reyes was our top viewed session. It's still up on YouTube, so you can go find it or email us if you need a link, because it was also a winter themed class. And so today we have a winter themed session, a little different. And I have been thinking back on one of the very best, my most favorite flower conferences that I attended in recent years, put on by the Lowcountry Flower Growers in Charleston. And it was called the Southern Flower Symposium. And one of our presenters today, Jim Martin, was part of the team who put that together. Hi, Jim. He's going to go second. And our first presenter, Rita Anders, was the keynote speaker. And Rita, hi. It's so good to see you, Rita.
Hey, how are y'all?
We are all good. And we're so glad that you're here. Rita presented basically her secrets to growing in a Southern climate. Rita I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and then we'll jump right in. Rita Anders is a longtime friend. I have known Jim longer than I've known Rita, but we go back. She owns Cuts of Color, and it is based in Weimar, Texas, which is I believe about an hour west of Houston. So kind of between Austin and Houston. Rita will tell us her story, but let's just say she's a second, or maybe, no, you're a third generation grower, Rita, because you inherited your greenhouses from your grandparents, right?
Yes. And his parents were farmers too. So probably like fourth generation at least.
That's great. And at some point you switched from all veggies, all tomatoes, to a diversified crop and added cut flowers. So we have a PowerPoint that is of slides that are illustrate Rita's talk. I was just having trouble with it this morning. So Karen is going to try to get it reformatted and post it up. But let's go ahead and put Rita on the featured speaker screen and let her talk a little bit about her farm and yeah, there we go. And oh, wow. Rita, you're with your sweet peas.
Yes.
Are you in the high tunnel right now?
I am. The very one you walked around in and took pictures of when you were here. I think it was 2012, maybe somewhere in there.
When I visited Rita, it was in January or February, and I could not believe there were dahlias in bloom in her greenhouse basically in winter. So that's what I think got us all talking about how Southern farmers and gardeners take advantage of a different climate. So Rita, talk us just a little bit, give us a snapshot of how Cuts of Color came about, and Karen will let me know as soon as the slides are ready.
Okay. Well, we started growing greenhouse tomatoes, and we did that for 26 years, and I was just done with that, and I love flowers. So I started adding flowers into the mix, and before long, we took out all the vegetables, and we were only flowers. So I think we went solid flowers in 2008, and then in 2012, we started selling to a major grocery store in Houston, and they pretty well buy everything we have, and we grow for them. Well, was year round. Right now we're kind of sporadic because we've had to switch some things up because of the dahlias, not being able to get them very much. But so we're reorganizing, and we're growing a lot of crops like sweet peas, which are behind me. They're like taller than 8 foot right now. They were seeded in October, and they started blooming about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And we have other varieties that are to my right that you can't really see in the picture, but that's just another. And we grow Winter Elegance and Mammoth. That's the two main ones we grow. And we just love the sweet peas. The sweet peas can grow in here and they don't have to have a lot of heat, just enough to keep them from freezing. So we have a couple of diesel heaters, and this house, mind you, is 12,000 square feet.
Wow.
It's 6 2,000 square foot bays. And we have snaps in here. We have lilies in here. We have dahlias in here. Not a whole lot, not like we used to have, but that's a whole nother story that we'll touch on later. But yeah, that's love awesome. Growing inside, because right now there's a blowing norther. It's like 20 miles an hour. It's really cold outside and it's just beautiful in here.
Well, Karen has the slides ready to pop up. Thank goodness someone knows how to do technology, because it wasn't me. And I think this is a kind of a shortened version of the presentation that Rita gave at the Southern Flower Symposium. I have to say it was a game changer for me to see that presentation. And I think for everyone there, because it showed farmers the potential of growing winter crops. So let's just run through some of your favorite crops. I'll keep an eye on the clock. We might run out of time, but if people have questions, please put them in the chat and we will try and throw them to Rita. Yes, Karen, I can see the slides. Can you see them, Rita?
Yes.
Okay.
I might be straining at the cameras because my eyesight is like, oh, that's small.
Well, you started to talk about your sweet peas. So these are the varieties that you mentioned.
Right. And then we do grow Royal also.
Let's see some pictures, Karen.
We dig the trench and put the bone meal down, put all of our structure in, and then we put sweet peas down, a netting on both sides, and then just keep them trained to a certain point. But then it's just cut and try to keep up with it because they just go nuts.
Wow. That's amazing.
This is my niece with a huge handful. We cut them with the stems and the flowers, and we make bunches of mixed colors and solids. And on the right is a picture of just buckets and buckets of sweet peas harvested.
Wow. So did you have them for Valentine's Day this year?
We did. That was one of the few flowers we had. We had some lilies that managed to bloom almost in time. And we had lilies, we had a few dahlias, we had sweet peas, we had ranunculus and anemones, and snapdragons.
Great.
Yeah, we had enough to make some bouquets. We didn't advertise though. We have so many returning customers that we just let the ones that always call get the bouquets because we didn't have enough to go around.
Well, here's the slide that talks about how and when to start sweet pea seeds. So this is the method you were referring to. You start soaking your seeds in October.
I soak them overnight and then I pop them up in deeper trays. And then once we have the beds ready, we try to transplant early because sweet peas don't really like being transplanted. So we put them in as early as we can, which is like October.
Wow. And people are welcome to take a screenshot of this, but we'll also, this whole presentation will be recorded. So you can go back and watch this, at your leisure. And hey, here in the Pacific Northwest, I have my packets of sweet peas and I'm going to start soaking them in middle of March. So I could follow this and just shift it by times, to later in the season, right?
Quite a bit. And the reason we grow them now is because we get 90 to 100 degree temperatures shortly after Mother's Day. And ours are done by then.
Right.
So
right.
We have to grow ours now in the winter time. And we have beds outside growing of sweet peas too, but they keep getting frosted back, but their roots are growing really good. And then once it quits freezing, they'll send out a bunch of wonderful shoots and we'll be able to pick on those past Mother's Day.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to your next crop. These are the beautiful ranunculus.
We grow the Onings Holland Elegance. And we grow these in crates. We plant 12 per crate. When I say crate, I mean a lily crate. We grow those in the greenhouse. They do have to be covered. If it's going to be 28, 26, we cover them. Now we ran out of fabric this last time and we didn't cover them. They were fine. The leaves may have showed a little bit of freeze or burn, but they're fine. But they grow in a greenhouse. We don't grow them outside. We grow them. We order them in April when we're about done picking. That way we know which ones we liked and which ones we didn't like. And we get that order in early and then they arrive in October and we pre-soak and go through all that ritual.
Just enjoy Rita's beautiful ranunculus before we go on to the next crop. I jumped ahead. I love this middle one here. That's a novelty, right?
Yes, that's one of the green series.
And how does that work for you? Any kind of winter tips that you want to share?
You have to watch the splitting stems, but otherwise they're pretty much just plant and harvest. They're even easier than the ranunculus.
Really?
I don't seem to have as even when the beds were really hot this winter, we had 85, almost 90-degree temperatures in December, and we lost several of our ranunculus. The anemones just trudged right through it.
Wow. Are you planting new corms every year, or are they wintering over and kind of perennializing?
No, they don't winter over. We let the plants dry up in the crates, and then we harvest the bulbs and wash them off real good. We'll shake all the dirt off, clean them off as much as we can. And then we try to regrow those the next year. And we had a lot better success with the anemones coming back than the ranunculus. I think it's secret to let those plants die back before you pull the bulbs out, and then just clean them up good. And then we just keep them dry. And yes, we do try to reuse them because it gets to be expensive.
Right, exactly. You just had one slide of lilies, but I wanted to just show this screen with your advice about your sources and then how you grow.
Biggest advice with lilies is you have to have a warm greenhouse.
Okay. And I'm just curious, for lilies, is this the stage you cut them at, or is it a little bit later than that?
We wait till that first bloom has some color to it, and then we cut them. We don't want to harvest them when they're open, and you don't want to harvest them when they're too green. So we wait till that first bloom has some color, and then we harvest them.
And are you selling them as straight lily bunches, or in mixed bouquets, or both?
We do both.
Yeah. Wow. They kind of and there was a slide with freesia on it, and I didn't even put it in the title slide. So I thought, well, there's a surprise here. Are you growing freesia now?
Yes. Yes, we do grow freesia. We have the ones from Hank Ownings, and we love freesia, but they will freeze. So you have to make sure that they are in a heated greenhouse, or if it's in an unheated greenhouse, you have to have them covered.
So I jumped ahead and I asked you about poppies. Let's just look at the poppy slides. I think there's a couple. You said just not available this year, or?
We order plugs. We order plugs from, I get them through Hank Ownings also, or I think Grow and Sell might offer them too. But they're the Colibri poppies. And you basically have to harvest these every day or twice a day when they get going, because you want to harvest them when they're, again, closed up with color. You try not to let them open.
Yeah. I bet people were asking you for them, and
yeah,
you had a few disappointed customers.
Well, yeah, the dahlia situation, we haven't been able to go to the store much this year because of the not being able to get the dahlias on time. So the poppies would have been a big hit there with the dahlias, but I guess it worked out for the best that we don't have them this year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're pretty. Well, a few other crops, and then we'll stop the slideshow. But I'm sure delphiniums are like a huge hit when you bring them to market.
Delphiniums, we ordered them. We get them plugs in around October 1st, and we transplant it into the greenhouses around November. And they sell like hotcakes, and especially blue this year. Blue is very, very popular. And we love the delphiniums, and they're very easy, and we don't have a lot of pests with delphiniums either.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you mentioned the Snapdragons are in the high tunnel that you're in right now, kind of side by side with the sweet peas.
Yes. And we grow different varieties, because that way there's always, like, the Chantilly's bloom first, then the Madam Butterfly and the Rockets, they all bloom at different times. And so we don't have every Snapdragon coming off at the same time. And same thing with those. We get them in October. We plant them in the greenhouse in November, and we've already been picking those for weeks.
So I see in the high tunnels, you've got the sides rolled up. Is that sort of how you manage those 70-degree days in winter, and then those 30-degree nights? I mean, it's pretty extreme.
Yeah. Here in Texas, you want to grow everything as cool as possible. So on the nights that it's really, really windy and it's going to freeze, we drop the sides. Otherwise, like last night, some of the sides we didn't even drop because it was 35. It wasn't freezing. So we want to grow these crops as cool as possible. And that way we get, that's what they're used to.
So they're cool. They're cool, even though the day might heat up. Like you told me yesterday when we spoke, it was supposed to be 70. So they've had a cool
It
night.
was 75 yesterday, and we were sweating hot in the greenhouse yesterday. And then yesterday evening or yesterday afternoon, a front came in, and last night it got down to 35 in no time. So we have really erratic temperature swings here. They may go from 35 to 75 or from 75 back down to 35 in a matter of hours.
It's extreme.
Short hours.
And then Dianthus is another very successful crop for you. I love the photos.
Yes,
There's just
it's just a good bouquet filler. And we do sell a little bit of it straight bunch, but mostly bouquet fillers.
Let's see some photos.
And that's a very, very easy crop to grow.
Pretty. Yeah. Another niece or family member who works for you?
This is actually my cousin's wife.
Okay.
This is Caitlin that you met when you were here.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
you remember Caitlin and Amy?
Yes. She's been working
for you
now
for I have another Amy. I have another Amy that's with me, and she's one of my lead designers and major helpers. She was up in the ranunculus picture earlier.
Okay, I think this is one of the last slides. Most of the ones that we've been talking about until now are things you start with from plugs. And this list are cut flowers that you grow from seed during the winter. So you have the Amies, the Ageratum, Buplurum, Cosmos, Nigella, Yarrow, early crop of sunflowers and zinnias, Status, Scabiosa, and Stock. So you're direct sowing these crops?
We're in seed packs, tray packs. And as soon as they're ready, we plant them outside, and then we cover with row cover. Oh, we've been sowing seeds since October, November. And a lot of the beds outside are planted, but if they're crops that are sensitive, we cover them with frost fabric.
Okay. So you're just, again, for months, you've been starting seeds in trays and then going through the process of transplanting them and then protecting them.
Yes. And we need more room, but we only have one 2,000 square foot house to put all our seedlings. So we need to plant more. We've got to get those other ones outside. So we make little low tunnels and cover them.
That's great. I think that's it for the slides. Rita, thank you so much for racing through that. I know it's like a big overview. Altogether, are you still, I had checked on your website. It said that you were currently had 26,000 square feet of greenhouses in addition to 2 acres of outside planting beds. Is that about right? That
is correct.
Wow. And can you tell everyone how you're selling now and kind of maybe what's down the pike for us in the future, for you in the future?
Okay. Well, right now we're doing lots of weddings. We have over 50 on the books for this year already. And we're selling a lot here on our farm. And then we sell to Central Market. Once we get going good and stuff really gets blooming, we'll be able to go back to Central Market. Right now, we haven't been there in 3 weeks because of the cold temperatures have really caused things to grow slow. We had Valentine's come in, and we had so many orders here at the home. And we use a lot of our flowers in weddings. So right now, that's where all of our flowers are going.
So your farmer florist business is really picked up to the point where sometimes they get the flowers first before you go to market, right?
Right.
And is that also more profitable then to sell your design services?
Oh yeah, that same flower you get, 3 to 4 times more at least in a wedding work than you would if you put it in a bouquet at the store. So I still try to give my customers at the store flowers, but right now we just haven't had enough. But we've always usually had enough. It's just this year we didn't touch on the dahlia situation.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What happened with your dahlias?
Okay, well, the last 3 years, the Broscraft dahlias, where we get our dahlia karma cuttings from, they've had trouble getting them to us in August when we need them. So they grow into the winter. So we were able to harvest off them. This year, we did not get our plugs till November. So there's low light, short, cold days. So the plants didn't really start blooming till almost 2 weeks ago. We started picking a few dahlias. And so we normally had production every week to take to the store. Well, now we haven't. And our greenhouse was filled with dahlias, which are profitable to heat. But if you don't have the dahlias in here, there's really no use spending all this money on high priced butane right now, propane, butane, to heat the greenhouse. So we've had to cut back our heat because we can't afford to heat sweet peas and snapdragons. Dahlias we can get more money for, but those crops just don't get as much to warrant heating this greenhouse. So we've had to change things up a little bit because of COVID, because of not being able to get supplies. I mean, everything from seed to buckets to fertilizer, freight has gone outrageously high. I ordered a $49 box of daffodils and I paid $170 in freight to get them here. It's just, things are changing.
Wow. You're somebody from the outside who looks like, you've figured it all out. You're established, you've run your business for decades, and you're still having to respond to all these variables that you can't control.
Yes. Well, one thing I am blessed with, I have a great team of labor. Labor is not an issue. I've got great workers, but everything else, yes.
Wow.
Just like everyone else, we're fighting the battle.
So I guess when you're kind of in control of the design part of your business, you can tell your wedding clients, let me offer you an alternative to whatever, poppies, because we're not going to have poppies. It's probably easier that way to not lose a sale versus selling wholesale.
I haven't lost a sale because I don't have a poppy. We have anemones, and we could just go with another flower. We do butterfly ranunculus. We didn't touch on that. We have those, and those make beautiful designs too.
Wow. Does anybody have any questions for Rita? We're going to kind of wrap up and shift over to our design portion of today. But I frankly think the most fascinating thing you've said that I'm interested in before we wrap up, Rita, is the on-farm sales. Like, you are kind of, first of all, where you live is beautiful. You took me to see some beautiful those old historic German churches that were in your area. And, it's maybe become more of a tourist destination, but people have to commit to coming to Cuts of Color, right?
Yes, we're an hour out of Houston, we're an hour out of Austin, we're an hour and a half out of San Antonio. So yes, when you want to come here, and now the road is under construction. So it's a commitment, but we have a lot of people that drive out to pick up flowers.
And how do you do that? Do you have a certain, do they pre-order an arrangement and come, or do you have days that you allow people to come?
I have a barn to door account where you can go on there and you can order your flowers and pay for them, and we'll have them ready for you. Or people just pick up the phone and call or text or email me, and we work it out. We're not that big. I try to get back to everybody on time.
You're 100% analog. I love it. One of our members just asked if you wanted to share any tips on growing the butterfly ranunculus. Do you treat them like your other ranunculus?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you soak the corms.
Yes.
Wow. And then they sprout. Like, how many do you wait 2 days or something for them to sprout? And then you can.
Well, no, we soak them and we put them in the cooler for 2 to 3 weeks, and we let them start putting roots out. And we put our corms in perlite while they're in the cooler. You can use vermiculite. Some people use potting soil. I just go with perlite. That's what's worked with me. And once they start throwing out those roots, that's when we put them. And that's usually around November 1st, when temperatures are supposed to start cooling around here, which they did, but then they decided to get hot in December again. But that's when we start putting them out. Otherwise, the bulbs will go dormant if the ground's not cool enough.
Yeah. Thank you so much. People they don't have questions, but they're putting all kinds of raves in the chat about how beautiful your flowers are and how pristine your greenhouse looks. And, you're sharing knowledge that I think will inspire others to start growing. Maybe not all of these crops, but pick one and try to experiment with planting it in, if you're in this, especially in the southern part of the US, start in October or November and see what happens, right?
Right.
Anything else you want to add before we jump over to our design session?
No, I'm good.
Well, this has been really fun. I love that you're standing in the most beautiful little nook there, kind of embraced by your sweet peas. So Karen has put Rita's Instagram for Cuts of Color, her address in the chat. Please go follow her. Let her know you appreciated her sharing today. And I can't wait till I come back to visit you. I don't know when I'll get back to Texas, but I hope it's soon.
COVID's about over. Hopefully you get here soon.
Okay. Thank you, Rita. Thanks so much. Okay. Well, the other person who really inspired me at the Southern Flower Symposium is Jim Martin. And Jim is coming to us from a barn studio at the estate that he manages in South Carolina, Lowcountry. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Deborah.
Did that bring back memories watching all of Rita's flowers?
Absolutely. She's an amazing grower. with huge amounts of experience, and I know I learned so much from her.
Jim and I are old friends. I was thinking the first time I met you might have been 2008 at the formerly Garden Writers Association conference in Portland. It was a while ago. Kind of have moved from horticulture into floral culture. And I'll just tell you a little bit about Jim, and he's going to do a design demo for us. As I said, Jim's a veteran horticulturist. He owns Compost in My Shoe. So we've got Cuts of Color and Compost in My Shoe, our two businesses today. In addition to managing a private estate where he's at right now, Jim has his own farm on James Island in Charleston. And previously he was director of programs for the Charleston Parks Conservancy and VP of horticulture for 5 years at Brook Green Gardens, a public garden. Jim and his partner, David, live incredibly creative lives on James Island, where they grow food and flowers because David is a chocolatier and chef. And so they have a food and flower thing going on, and that's pretty complimentary, isn't it?
It is. Yes. Yeah. Where food meets flowers. That's what it is.
I know. This is hashtag where food meets flowers. I love it. And I also got to visit them. So I have visited Cuts of Color and also Compost in My Shoes. So now, Jim, you've spoken on the main stage at AIFD. You've received a European Master's certification. You've studied many times with people like Hitomi, Gilliam, Gregor Lersch, who've now become friends. And you've got this total focus in when you're not working on floral design, I think. Obviously you're growing, but what gave you that bug?
Yeah, about 15 years ago, I was looking at my career in horticulture, and while it's always been, I've always been very happy with where that was going. From a personal standpoint and a creative standpoint, I felt like it was necessary for me to do some stuff that was just for me. That while I wanted it to be something that would connect over to what I do with my career, I wanted something that would feed my soul. So what I decided to do is that I would study the floral arts for the rest of my life. And to do that, I felt like I wanted to seek out some of the greatest people out there and learn from them. And so that's what I've been very fortunate to do.
Around the world. You've traveled so much to do it.
I have, yes. Yeah.
We were last together literally 2 days before the Canadian-US border closed. Studying with Hitomi and Sue McCleary and Holly Chappell and Gregor Lersch and you. And that seems like ancient history, but it was 2 years ago, almost to the month. Yeah. And I'm so happy to see you alive and well. And I'm excited that you're going to share some designs with us. So
yeah.
Karen, why don't you take me off screen so Jim can have the speaker view? And I asked Jim to share winter floral design. And so he just told me one thing, and that is that there would be daffodils. So please go ahead and get started, Jim, and people can add questions and I'll throw them to you if there's time.
Sure. So today we're going to look at the idea of winter design, but for us, obviously it's a little bit different because our winter is pretty much over. We're almost into spring. So we have daffodils. In fact, our daffodil crops, the early ones are about done. So they were at their peak last week, but we have other things right now, calendulas, pansies. We have coreopsis, a few things like that. And the one thing that I realized with most of these crops this time of year is that they have short stems. And then the other thing that I wanted to work with you today is looking at some ideas that focus around the structure that we put these flowers into. Over the years, one of the things that I've worked with many designers on in workshop settings is looking at the whole idea of armatures or the structures that we put the flowers in and how that actually doubles, triples, quadruples the experience of our beautifully grown flowers, putting them in something that then elevates them to a different level. So today we're going to look at a few ideas that, they're inspirations from going into places that you wouldn't think maybe you would find it. And one of them in particular is the Container Store. And I don't know whether y'all have container stores out there. Our Container Store is about 5 hours away from here. And I was visiting some friends in Raleigh, North Carolina, 2 years ago, and went in the Container Store. And they had to basically drag me out of the place. So I find these things and I think this is going to be a great structure for something. So I hoard these things, I bring them home and I hold on to them until I figure out what that's going to be. So this structure basically is something that we put plates in, right? I think it is anyway. So I bought like 10 of them and I said, okay, this would be the perfect thing. One of the things I try to do is buy enough so that down the road I can make enough of these to use them, for example, on a dining room table for a party setting. So today I'm going to show you how I transformed this one, which is a onesie, but we'll be doing quite a few of them so that I could use them in that type of setting. The beauty of doing these separates is that you can use one in a setting or you can use 10. It just depends on how many you have available to you. So when I'm looking at something like this, the main thing I'm deciding on is where the flowers are going to go. And in this design, we're going to be using water tubes that were painted, and we're going to use these in such a way so that short stems are perfect for this design. And you know, we have short stems for different kinds of reasons, whether it's the flower grows that way, or we've done some other design work and now we have this leftover stuff. And keep in mind, you know, for those of you who are in the retail setting, you want ideas for people that you work with or that you're selling to, that they can flower on a more regular basis, or that they have it and then when they want to have a party or an event, all of a sudden it becomes something that they can go ahead and use. All right, so we went from this and we're going to this. Okay.
You're like a cooking show. You have the finished product all ready to go.
You have to. I only have so many minutes, right? Okay.
I'm impressed.
All right. So what we did is we transformed this using other materials, and this at this point has nothing to do with floral, right? Well, except for the sticks. Yeah. All right. So some of the things that I look at are, what are the other materials that I'm going to be combining that would help with the color combinations that I want to work with? And those typically end up being things like yarns. I love yarns. And in fact, I have so many skeins of yarns, it's not even funny. It's really something that I need help with probably. All right, so this design, we're going to be basing this along the daffodil, the calendula, the pansy, and we're going to be using a few of these coreopsis. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what our colors are that we're going to be working with. So when I went ahead and decided on the colors for the structure, it had to do with that harmony, which was more of a coppery kind of yarn and different types of oranges. And then the idea of tan, you know, and how that works. So I started out by doing some painting on the structure itself. And I have a tendency of hand mixing my paints. So I put them together the way I wanted them. I painted it, dried it out, and then I started wrapping the yarn. It's a simple thing. I use a little bit of hot glue right here, and I wrap, and there we are. Here we're finished with that. The beauty of this is it's great texture. And this yarn has little pieces that sort of hang out, which goes well with the sticks that I intertwined into this. Now, as I said, for the water source, I put the plastic water tubes. I tied this metal wire along these. You have two contact points, double wrap, and then we tie these into the structure, just like this. And then we wind it together.
That's amazing.
And then
you're treating this as a piece of sculpture now, really.
Yes, and in fact, you know, when I'm finished with this thing, I want something that whether it's flowered or not, it can hang out with me. And then it can be reused many different ways, many different flowers. And you just have to make do with the sort of the color scheme that you use. And I don't know about you, but this color scheme here, there's a huge number of flowers that can be used for this. All right, so the other thing I did is I weaved these branches in. I went out here this morning and I pulled some vines out of the trees, cut a few of them and weaved them in. And so you can see how that looks, the top view of this. And this is really basically ready to flower, okay?
Wow.
And again,
so Jim, did the sticks just rest in there? You're not attaching the sticks necessarily, are you?
You know, normally I would, but because I left my my paper coated wire at home this morning. So I did the back, and actually, you should be able to throw this thing around. Only one fell out. Okay, you should be able to move it around a little bit, and stuff should stay in there, and it does. So it's perfect. And the other reason for the sticks is it gives you a grid to work with. One of the other things that this design you could do, this bowl, we have these. Actually, they're little pans. I think you can bake in. We had a bunch of them. David, my husband, went crazy one time and bought like 24 of these things in different colors. I'm always like, okay, what are we going to, then I find uses for these things all the time. So this actually slides right in here. So if you want a water source.
Oh my goodness, brilliant.
You then have a water source there, and you can fill that up, and then you can put the flowers through. With this design, I'm not doing that today. But you can see there's just all kinds of things you could do with it.
That you could use if you had like Rita's lilies or something with longer stems.
Absolutely.
Right?
Something that you wanted that water source. But the flowers on these stems, they're relatively short. Well, this one isn't. Here's one of the few that's good. So we're going to weave these in. And I'm going to do this quickly because we have two here. I want two designs I want to show you.
Oh my goodness, Jim, you're amazing.
See how that weaves in there.
Yep.
It's quick. We're going to use some of our daffodils. Again, as far as flowering these, you and your clients want something that's easy, convenient. You fill those little water tubes with water, and away we go.
That's so charming. I liked also what you were saying about, this is a onesie, but you could do multiples, but if you were transporting to an event, it would be much easier to transport them at this scale than say 8 feet long or something.
Totally. And in fact, these segment-based things, you end up getting them there together and all the flowers are in place. When you're dealing with something that's 8 feet long, it's hugely impossible to move it unless you have a van like I do. But even then, trying to haul that in and out, these piece type things are perfect for that specifically. It's very hard to find a place to use pansies sometimes because their stems are so short. And it's the perfect, because it's just the right height. It gets them above. And also, if, say, for example, you're using this on a dinner table, this is the right height, right, that we can see over. But the pansies, these tiny little beautiful flowers with details, are going to be right at your eye level, which is exactly what we want.
Pam, our hellebore expert, had a question about varieties of pansies for cuts. Do you grow pansies for cuts, or are these garden pansies?
These are garden pansies.
But there are varieties that have longer stems, right?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. But, typically when you look at it, it's like longer. Like, how long is longer? Not that long.
It's still like maybe a 5 or 6 inch stem.
Yes.
At most.
Right. That's right. All right. So,
Jim, everyone's going to go to the Container Store this afternoon and do a little creativity. This is so inspiring.
The other thing is, I'm like, I just go crazy when you go in places like the big box stores and you look at these things that they're using them one way, because you're going to use them some other way, that you're going to be creative in how you transform it. And it's all about transformations, isn't it? We're going to call this done for the moment, but you can see lots of fun, lots of color. And the other thing with this is that you really focus your attention on the flowers. Notice that we didn't use green. Green isn't so much going to add anything to this. And so it's just a bright, happy place to be. When we're done, we pull the flowers out, we keep it on a shelf, and then we're ready to flower it again. There we go. So there's design number one.
I think we have to give Jim, a high five hand wave on that. That's amazing.
All right. So our second one, this is a disc that started out as just a ring. And it was a silver ring. You get these at Michael's. I imagine all of you all have Michael's where you are. But these silver rings can be transformed using the colored wires, yarns, just wrapping it around like this pattern. Now what I did is I put a little piece of double-sided tape along the edge. It helps to hold the yarns in place when you're wrapping them. And these are perfect for using all different ways, which I'm going to show you one of the ways that I've used them.
This is another way to use up your yarn collection.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Oh my
All right.
gosh, look at that.
All right. So first of all, we're starting out with a vase, right? And yes, we can do a typical bouquet kind of arrangement for a vase, but this is something that's a little bit different, obviously. And so we're going to flower this. Now, I took several of these discs. I had 3 or 4 different sticks, and I brought those down into the container and then tied the disc onto those. And they're seated in here in different ways so that from wherever you're looking at the arrangement, it has different viewing points. There's also some benefits to this because it has a flat surface. When we put the flowers in place, because of the textures on the flowers, it really shows those too. It's the contrast in those textures that makes it stand out. But the beauty of it is that the color harmonies going on with these flowers is also tied in with this. I love the yarns that we used with this one because it has a little bit more of the tans and the browns, which does tie in with this color harmony that we're using with these daffodils and the calendulas.
And what are those? Are those seed pods? The papery spiral things?
Yes, these are pods from the jack bean. And I don't know whether y'all have grown the jack bean. It's a vine that grows all summer long for us. When you open it up, the seeds are fuchsia. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's a beautiful plant. I went crazy this year and I grew tons of it because I use it all the time in different designs. And when you pop them open and you take the seeds out, they twist when they dry. So I like the way that it sort of gives it a very interesting kind of thing. So what we do is we just weave this through the structure into the pot, into the container with the water. And
oh my gosh, you know what I'm thinking about also, like the hellebore issue.
Hellebores would show up beautiful in this.
Right. And what Pam was talking about, the variety that had the outward facing heads, but so many of them nod, but this design would correct that. It would force the face of the flower outward because the yarn would hold it up.
It would totally give the flower its time to shine, now wouldn't it?
But these are shining, Jim, on your design. I love this.
All right, we're gonna put a few more in here. I know I'm probably running out of time.
No, you're good. You have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
People are just like taking notes, and Karen's putting the supply list in the chat. So now people know how to get the plate rack and the silver hoops from Michael's. So she's
this stuff's available everywhere. It's just everyday stuff that's used for something else.
I love it.
And
so you have to kind of get in there and pull it from behind sometimes if the stem is stuck.
Yeah, what I did is I used a lot of wire in this, and sometimes the wire gets caught. And so anyway.
It's cool. It looks amazing. Now that is a bit too tall for a dinner party. You'd use it for a entry table or something.
Oh, absolutely. Or a bed stand or, used in,
it's phenomenal.
The thing I like about this one is, again, it can be undone and reused, right? And I do like the way that the flowers sort of, as I said, they sit on this. And now this is one that's probably not going to work so well with the pansy unless you use it right at this other angle.
Oh, that's so pretty. What if you, is it too big of a hassle to tube the pansy just because the water dries out so quickly?
Yeah, you could, but you can see how here it could be placed in like right there.
Sure.
So you could have a level of the pansies sitting in the water. And it would work.
Actually, I like that. It's like a multiple levels of I don't know.
Right? So for every angle, you've got a different thing going on. And it has viewing areas. So and you can see, like, we're always going to have a fun thing as you're turning it and adding to it. Actually, it's a lot of fun to flower too. All right, so you get the idea of it. I know I'm probably running out of time.
It's phenomenal, Jim. I love it.
But again, the whole idea is to have fun with it. It's focus your attention on some of the structures because we're always going to have fabulous flowers to work with. But again, this is a multiplier effect. And by doing things like this, while the structures themselves take some time to do, once it's done, you can use it over and over and over again. And you're seeing how quickly I can flower this. The flowering is minimal as far as what you're doing. Not to mention the fact that every flower is basically shines in this design, so that each one gets its own little day in the sun, right?
Yeah, you're basically creating a pattern on the surface of the yarn hoop that nothing's covered and nothing's really overlapping. It's so charming and whimsical. And you've done these sort of yarn wall hanging floral displays too. And is that the same method? I can't remember. I remember you posted some of those that you put them on a porch or something, right?
Yeah. We have some floral art that we do that are wall hangings, and we use 2 or 3 different methods of attaching the plants in. And so that's where the art part comes in, and the science of it. How are we doing that in such a way that, allows you to have the plant in there without falling out, and at the same time is the environment where the plant can thrive.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They're plants. All right. So that means you have to follow Jim on Facebook and Instagram and see all of his posts, because you're frequently posting. And oh, there you go. Karen is just.
There you are. Thank you.
Karen has just found this display of mostly like air plants and tillandsias, right?
It's a lot of bromeliads, but I actually use several other different things. Zigzag plant, and I have my favorites: Rapsalis. Anything that requires little bits of soil or none at all, that can be misted, that's in that type of space, or grows naturally. Those are the perfect things for the wall pieces that are hanging.
We're never going to look at a skein of yarn the same way now. I love it.
Ooh, so much
Jim,
to do.
you are you're just so much fun and such an inspiration, because you look at the world, the natural world and the art world, like no one else. So I know people will go home and try some of these. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
I saw that Rita was designing. Rita, can you show us what you're doing there before we say goodbye to you? Can you take yourself off mute? And are you getting ready for a wedding?
I am. This is the bridal bouquet.
Oh my
gosh. Got a ton of our ranunculus in it. And just little arrangements with dahlias, and I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's one lucky wedding.
Sweet peas. Yeah, we have big weddings around here.
Yeah, it's Texas.
It's at one of those Catholic churches that the Painted Church.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you two have been amazing. I love you both. And I thank you for being Slow Flowers members who are generous with your knowledge and sharing with others. This has been a really great session, and I'm glad we recorded it so we can share it next week with those who weren't able to join us. I just want to encourage everybody to take one thing that you've learned from Rita about growing, and one thing you've learned from Jim about design, and push yourself and experiment, because it sounds, as the message came through today, they're both used to adapting to what's happening either in the season or what they have on hand as on the creative side for Jim and on the flower side for Rita. And the thing is, they're both farmer florists. So they both just showed us one side of their talents. People have really enjoyed this, and we have some hellebores to give away. So Nisha will do the drawing over the weekend, and we'll notify the winners. And thanks, Poppy Starts, for those amazing plants. Rita was telling me when she was in the Pacific Northwest for an ASCFG conference, she bought a bunch of hellebores and took them home to Texas, and they didn't fare so well. And Jim said that he grows them, but he treats them like annuals. So they're they have a little plant envy as well down there in the South. Can't grow everything everywhere.
There's a few varieties you probably can grow. So Rita, if you want to reach out to me, I can help you with that.
All right.
Yeah, I'd love to know that too.
Yeah. Send us an email.
Please.
I'll connect you guys. That's great. Thank you, Pam.
I'm on Instagram too.
That's awesome. So next month, we're going to go back to our second Friday schedule. So we'll be meeting on March 11th. I've got a few invitations out for presenters, but I haven't confirmed it. So look for that in our March Slow Flowers newsletter, which will be out March 1st, and you'll have plenty of time to save the date. But go ahead and save the date, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern on Friday, March 11th. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the weekend. It's a long weekend. And so maybe you can do some flowering as a verb. I love it that Jim uses that term, and some growing, and get ready with your seeds and your plugs if you're not in the South. And if you're in the South, like Jim said, you're already practically to summer. Well, you're not in winter anymore. You're in spring. Okay. Thank you so much. This has been really fun, and just great turnout today. And I wish you all happy flowering. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jim.